All right, let's get into our movie review for the week. And this week's movie, again, I mentioned at the top of the show, but again, if you're just joining us, this week's movie is Heat, directed by Michael Mann.
It wasn't in the heat of the night.
No, I know. Don't. Yeah, and it's not The Heat. Starring what's her face? Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock. Not that movie. It's just Heat.
Thank God.
Yeah. But all right, let me just give you the quick synopsis of this movie. Okay, master criminal Neil McCauley is trying to control the rogue actions of one of his men, while also planning one last big heist before retiring. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Hannah attempts to track down McCauley as he deals with the chaos in his own life, including the infidelity of his wife and the mental health of his stepdaughter. McCauley and Hannah discover mutual respect even as they try to thwart each other's plans.
Yeah, and you have
and again, this movie stars in the main characters. It stars Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, Tom Sizemore, Danny Trejo, Ashley Judd.
Yeah, star-studded cast, man.
Yeah, Natalie Portman's even in this movie. Yeah, just really big, big stars. Maybe not as big as they, are now or used to be, but yeah, I mean, at the time, really big names and
heavy hitters.
What was that?
Yeah, some heavy hitters.
Yeah, heavy hitters for sure. It was crazy because for some reason, I always thought that Ashley Judd's character was, I forgot that it was Ashley Judd. For some reason, in my mind, I thought it was Charlize Theron.
Well, I think it's because she was a blonde in this film, and she
right,
does
exactly.
have and this is like hot Ashley Judd, not before she turned into a crazy feminist.
Right.
So
she
like,
does choose. Yeah. But I think it was that time, or about the time that Charlize was coming up. Like she was doing bit parts and whatnot, and so
right.
I think So I think in my mind I just replaced Ashley Judd with Charlize Theron. But yeah, Ashley Judd was hot in this movie.
Oof, yeah, she was.
But yes, for those of you who may not be aware, but Heat is actually a remake from an early Michael Mann production, because this movie was written and directed by him, but he had previously tried to make this movie in the either late 80s or early 90s. But he put it out as a TV movie, and it didn't have the star power or the financial backing that the '95 iteration had. So I've been trying to find a copy of it, a version of it online, but to no avail. The closest thing that I got was, the scene where Al Pacino and Robert De Niro's characters are are sitting down and they basically have that kind of parlay.
Oh, that was a great scene.
That's the greatest. I love that scene. It's so good.
Just the tension between those two, but at the same time, like this weird, like they have this mutual respect for one another, and they realize that they're exactly the same person, just on the opposite. They're the same and just
Exactly.
different sides of the
I
coin.
did. Yeah, I did want to broach that subject, but yeah, I saw the closest thing to the original that I was able to find was this clip on YouTube of that scene, but in the TV movie.
Oh, the TV version.
Yeah, the
Okay.
TV movie, and it was rough. It was basically the same kind of interaction, but by two like lesser actors.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it
it did. Yeah,
did it work
yeah.
for you?
Well, I'm sorry. What was that?
Did the scene work for you? Because did you watch that scene with the other actors?
Yeah, that's the only clip that I was able to find actually online.
Right.
Was the same scene in Heat where where the two are having like that conversation, but it's done in in the TV movie, and of course it doesn't have the benefit of being allowed to swear, let reduce production value in terms of like lighting and things like that, and also two lesser actors. Not in, I don't mean in terms of notoriety, but just in terms of caliber. It's like
I think
the
too, like in because De Niro and Pacino have such great chemistry on
mhm,
camera together,
mhm,
and it's really hard to find that sometimes.
right. Um, but yeah, it was rough. But again, like you had mentioned earlier, how these guys are basically the same person. It's interesting because they're dressed similarly in this movie, and I don't again I can't really talk about like the TV movie, but in that scene, um, the same diner scene where they're doing the parlay, um, you know Al Pacino's character, Lieutenant Hannah, is kind of dressed more or less how a cop would dress in like the late '80s, early '90s, um, and the Macaulay character, he's dressed kind of more or less like the stereotypical like bad guy, like jeans, denim, jeans and a denim jacket,
Right.
and I think the Heat version is a lot better because if he in an earlier version, if he was trying to show that these guys were similar, uh, it didn't work because they're because just superficially they were dressed differently. So it didn't show that they had like the same kind of mentality, as opposed to in Heat. Throughout the entire movie, they're dressed more or less the same, kind of like suit, um, kind of the same kind of neutral palette, and so
Right.
like that,
Right.
and so like just like that visual indication of like these guys are the same, They're on different sides of the law, um, but they're this, but their like their mentality is the same, their ethic is the same, their resolve is the same.
Right. Right. And yeah, it's kind of weird because you don't really know who you're rooting for,
Mm-hmm.
and because I mean obviously you want uh Detective Hannah to he's kind of the good guy, you want him to win, um but at the same time you also respect um you know Macaulay as well, because it's like he's a thief, he's a bad guy, but he's not like a completely like he's above kind of the thuggish criminal, like he's more um because he cares about like the people around him, like his team.
Right. Yeah, Robert. The one thing that was really marked, or that really stuck out to me, was the asceticism of Robert De Niro's character. Just
Yeah.
like even in the parlay between Hannah and Macaulay. Hannah's like, "What are you, some sort of monk?" But Macaulay has like this very austere asceticism, where like it's like he has that line where it's like if you can't walk away in 30 seconds or less, then you shouldn't be involved. You know,
Right. And here's the other thing
and
too
he's
is
like, and he even calls it a discipline. It's like it's a discipline, and I mean it culminates in the last scene of the movie where he he goes and gets like his revenge against like this former crew member who sold him out. And he's about to, and he all he has to do is get in the car and then leave with his girl. But then he spots Hannah coming towards him, and he makes that decision. He sticks to his discipline, and even though he really likes this, even though he really likes this girl, he walks away.
and it's like, oh man, that was a heartbreaking scene. It's like,
I know, it's just like, God, it's like because you know that he really likes this girl.
yeah,
But then he's like his devotion to like his philosophy, or like his like refusal of attachment, basically.
right.
It's like it's like so hardwired into him now that it's just like he just does it.
Well, and here's the other thing, kind of comparing these two characters. You have, because every time they show um, Macaulay's house, it's this big, like it has a great view. It's nice and big, spacious. Nothing in it. Has
Right,
absolutely
empty.
nothing in it. And on the same side, you have Detective Hannah, who he's not even in his own house, and his only possession is this shitty like portable TV.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
the only thing that like.
Uh,
That's the only
right. He only has the TV.
yeah.
Did we
And
lose
so
you?
it's kind of like it's like they both are the only thing that they really have is their craft.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Because they're like during like their parlay, they were talking about like, oh, I'm the best at what I do, and I don't see myself doing anything different. That's what Robert De Niro's character tells Al Pacino's character, and Al Pacino's character is like, yeah, I'm the same way. I've been putting away bad guys for like so many years that that's all I'm good for. But it's interesting that there's this movie's so great because they're like these men are mirror images of each other, just slightly different because Macaulay's character he doesn't form attachments, so that he never has to so he never has to deal with like kind of like the consequences of his actions or his association or his attachments.
Right.
But Detective Hannah, on the other hand, he doesn't have attachment because he doesn't want to burden anybody else.
Right.
Because of the consequences of his action, because or his job, because like there was that scene where he was fighting with his wife, and
Oh, another great scene.
and he had just come from a gruesome crime scene, and like and he was affected by it, and the wife wanted wanted to share kind of share that load, share the heaviness with him, but he's like, no, this is my thing, I signed up for it, not you, so I'm not going to share it with you. And he goes, and he says as much, and he's like, oh well, you know what? I just came from a triple homicide, 3 bodies there, just lying lying in the dirt, no, wait, that wasn't it. No, he was talking about like the psychopath that microwaved his baby because it was crying too much.
Right.
Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, so yeah, let me share that with you. It's like, it's just like, and he was like trying to spare her that. And so in kind of in a similar way to Macaulay, he kind of stays away from attachments, uh, for kind of an unselfish reason, so he doesn't burden anybody else with the knowledge that he knows that how fucked up the world is.
Yeah, it's this is I was because this is because I watched this movie a couple times before the doing the review, and this is uh, the first time I've actually ever seen the film,
Uh huh.
and I had heard about it, and when I watched it, it's like, man, there's a surprising amount of depth to this whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
All the characters were really, as obviously especially the main two, but like the whole movie, man, it was a surprising amount of depth and insight into this film. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and I mean,
one thing,
like all the characters, I think all emphasize a certain aspect of of specifically man. Because you have like the very like disciplined and austere Macaulay, and you have the protective. You have the protective and the protective and stoic kind of Detective Hannah, and then you have like the wild kind of unchecked unruliness of Waingro.
oh yeah, he's
Yeah, and then you
it's
have like the
very
kind of, and then you have like the kind of loyalty of what was Tom Sizemore's character's name?
um shoot. I'm
But
drawing a
yeah,
blank.
he was like just like kind of like uh, the in it all the way, blood in blood out kind of like loyalty.
Right, right.
So yeah, it's just like these great examples of like kind of like or kind of the different facets of masculinity.
Yeah, yeah. You had what was the well, one other thing too that I found, because I'm still trying to figure out like the because Al Pacino is an interesting actor in my opinion. I think he's a good actor,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been trying to pinpoint like the exact moment like in his acting career where he went from more of a kind of uh, I, I guess more of like a dramatic acting, okay, like what we see from like The Godfather
Mm-hmm.
to what we get in Heat is like bombastic, Al Pacino.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out which movie like where he went from like his like Michael Corleone to like
Right,
what they
that
do in
very kind
America.
of nuanced and subtle kind of performance to like, it's like to the you can fuck my wife, but you can't watch my TV.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like chewing his gum like super loudly and just acting kind of like a dickhead.
I think it was sometime during this period, and I think one of those bombastic performances that you mentioned might have been Scent of a Woman.
I haven't seen that one.
Okay, yeah, because it's he does it is a kind of a subdued, nuanced performance, but there are moments of him being kind of like bombast.
Because I think like there's some point between like his performances in like Serpico
Mm-hmm.
and Scarface that I think it was like something changed in his acting style.
Right, yeah, because Serpico was kind of bombastic too, and then of course
But not
Scarface, Tony Montana. Um,
yeah. So
yeah,
I'm still trying to pinpoint that performance where like he went full like acting,
yeah, right. Yeah, like the big, like the big emphasis on words.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, it was
I think
funny.
ultimate bombast is when he played the devil in Devil's Advocate.
I still haven't seen that either, so I'll have to check that out.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely like a lot of like bombastic kind of Al Pacino in that movie.
Which I don't mind. It's funny because it's like there's a lot of moments like where he's interacting with like his CIs and stuff in this film where it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that initial one where he goes to meet him at like the chop shop or whatever,
Yeah,
and then like also and then later on he goes to like meet like the brother who's supposed to have like information for him.
yeah, like they meet in Koreatown.
Yeah, that's how you know it's
He's
a
like, I
Michael
know,
Mann movie because
yeah,
because he emphasizes Koreatown so much.
yeah. I was like, I know that plaza. Like
Yeah, yeah,
a
me too.
lot
I
of
was like,
those
I know
things
that
are
place.
there.
Well, I know that. I know that club. I know.
Yeah, that store's still there.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, it's funny because Michael. I think Michael Mann. I think he basically took the Macaulay character and then like kind of transported it or transposed it for his movie Collateral.
Okay,
Have you seen Collateral?
I haven't seen Collateral either.
Okay, but when you do, when you see the main character played by Tom Cruise, you're gonna be like, oh my god, that's Macaulay.
Okay, I'll check it. I'll watch that soon.
I mean, a little bit looser than maybe
Not as
Robert De
romantic.
Niro's portrayal. I mean, they're not the same character. Let me
Right.
get that distinction clear. They're not the same character, but the kind of archetype of that character is Michael Mann does use it again in Collateral.
I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to think of like what other. Um, oh well, another kind of because the first time I had heard about this film was there was a comedian that was talking about like how he kind of misses like well acted movies, and he's a fantastic impressionist,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about like because he has a really good Pacino and De Niro impersonation, and so he
Mm-hmm.
was kind of reenacting some of those scenes from Heat, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I'll have to I'll send you the link to the performance because it was by a comedian named Aries Spears who used to be on Mad TV,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and oh my god, he's got some really good impersonations, but yeah, his Heat performances like it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm trying to think of like another because there's the really good scene obviously between Macaulay and Hannah, Hannah uh, between Hannah and his wife, and talking about like it's like I keep it on the inside because it keeps me on the edge, where I have to be, and he's kind of doing like that his whole speech or his whole message, or it's this cadence that he has to it that makes it so powerful. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, what was it? The stepdaughter is played by Natalie Portman.
Right, right,
That
right,
was
right.
the other one. And I always thought that the wife, like, because she kind of looks like a poor man's version of Demi Moore.
Okay, yeah, I see that. I
um,
see that.
yeah. Let's see, what else was? I can't really think of anything like other than um, of any other like scene or that like was really like powerful or anything like that. But like though, it was just overall it was just such a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I like movies where it's like you kind of don't really know who you want to root for.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that ambiguity where it's like you're kind of rooting for the bad guy, but like like he's gonna lose.
Right. Then, okay, for sure you have to watch Hell or High Water.
Okay,
And I know I told you this before, but yeah, I mean, if you really enjoy that kind of like, oh, do I root for the good guy or the bad guy? watch Hell or High Water because that's what that movie's all about.
Okay.
Yeah, and you do have like this kind of you do have this conflict within you. It's like oh, do I vote, root for the cops or do I vote for the do I root for the two bank robbers who are doing this for a good reason, but they're still hurting people.
But I was rooting for Neil Macaulay in a way too because he had lived such this very structured almost monastic lifestyle, and he finally found someone that he really cared about,
Hmm.
and it was everything was in his grasp. And he talks a little bit about his life to the woman that he meets, and he's talking about how it's like it's he has no family essentially. He essentially kind of grew up on his own and made it. I mean, his really only you know semi-positive influences in his life was the guy that he met in jail who talked about that
Yeah,
gave him
yeah,
his
his
philosophy.
yeah, basically his mentor who taught him that mantra. If don't get involved with anything that you're not willing to walk away like in 30 seconds flat.
Yeah.
Which again goes to that asceticism. Um, I decided
Yeah.
to pull up the definition. Asceticism: severe self-discipline and avoidance of all forms of indulgence, typically for religious reasons. But of course, this guy
Yeah,
he doesn't necessarily do it for religious reasons, but he
yeah.
adheres to that particular mantra with religious fervor.
Right. And it's like you kind of I was so in a way I was rooting for him in that way because it's like man, like the guy is like had nothing his whole life and he
Mm-hmm.
finally has something within his grasp that's that gave his life more meaning, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like and it all kind of went to hell because his alter ego, his you know was outmaneuvered him. And in a way like his crew kind of messed it up too.
Right, yeah, because Wingro he kind of goes cowboy, and then
And clearly
Val
he's
Kilmer's
focused.
character, yeah, Val Kilmer's in this movie. Val Kilmer's character, he messes it up in that he almost disrupts the balance because he has that spat with his wife, and you know Macaulay needs him working at his best.
Right, right.
Um, and then Tom Sizemore's character, he's just kind of like he is just like kind of too much of a follower. Uh, in that like when Macaulay asks like, oh, should we do this job? And he asks, when he asks Tom Sizemore character, he's like, yeah, whatever you want, whatever you think, man. It's just, I'll do whatever you do. And he says, no, he's like, no, this isn't one of those situations. You have to tell me what you think. And then he kind of just goes and he just kind of does. He kind of votes yes, anyways.
Right, right.
Right? And then of course Trejo, played by Danny Trejo. Um, uh, he betrays the crew unwillingly because I think his wife is taken hostage or whatever.
Yeah, by Wingro.
Yeah, or by Van Zant.
Was it Van Sant or was it Wingro that did it?
What was that?
I think it was Wingro that did it, not Van Sant.
No, possibly.
Because Wingro, yeah, because at the scene when Macaulay found Trejo, he was asking, "He's like, why'd you do it, man?" And it's like he had my wife.
Uh, oh,
And it was the
I thought he was talking about Van Zandt.
it was that's right. It was Waingro and Van Zandt were working
Yeah, yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was the other okay, that was the other one, like because the initial heist was them stealing these bonds that were
From Van Zandt.
from Van Zandt, and they were trying to work a deal to like he was going to get his money back from the insurance, but they were
Hmm.
also going to sell them back to him at like a certain like a percentage, so that
Hmm.
way like they made money and he made another like bunch of money.
Right. Yeah. He get.
Uh,
Yeah.
but, like,
Exactly.
but
So
he was a hot
they
egg.
make some money, but Van Zandt gets maybe a little less than double the money that that he supposedly lost.
Exactly. And so there was that, and then he decides to to cross Macaulay, which was a huge mistake.
Right.
Um, and Waingro kind of screws that up too, because no one was supposed to be killed in that heist.
Hmm.
Um, and then it also leads into the to the bank job, and they have to find a replacement for Waingro, and it goes. There's a series of events that just cause the kind of that avalanche of stuff to go wrong.
Right. Yeah. It's just like the
And
one
then
little piece that's not there causes the entire thing to collapse.
exactly,
Um, but yeah,
and it's
but the ending too is just like amazing because Robert De Niro's character Macaulay laid it out for him, and like during that parlay where it's like it doesn't matter what happens because I'm never going back to jail.
right,
And you think initially you think like, oh man, this guy is like so smart, he's so disciplined that there's no way that they're gonna get him back into prison. At least that's what you're thinking. That's what you're initially set up to believe. But it wasn't. But it's not until the last scene and the kind of the gunfight, the duel at the airport between Detective Hannah and Macaulay, where you understand what like the true meaning of like his like devotion to or his mindset on things, where it's like like I'm never going back to jail. Doesn't mean that he's going to do everything he can not to get there, but it's like no matter what happens, he's not going back. And that
right,
which includes the option of being killed,
which is
which does
spoiler
happen.
alert. What happened? Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like another level of like, oh dang, so good.
yeah, and it's like that final scene too is like it's like, and you even feel like Detective Hannah's like there's a sense of like remorse too. It's like fuck, it wasn't like yeah we got the bad guys, but it's like it was just kind of the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And and even during that parlay it says like I don't think in this particular case I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it, but this is what I'm born to do. It's like I have to do it.
Yeah, it's one of those bittersweet kills on for Detective Hannah. And then like in his dying breath, he tells him like, "I told you I'm not going back," and then
Yeah,
he dies.
fucking powerful scene, man. It was great.
Powerful, powerful scene. Um, yeah, I think we talked about this movie to death.
Anything else that you want to like any other scene or character that you
as is custom, we kind of did mention like the whole Simpsons thing in the beginning, but there is another connection to the Simpsons in this movie in the actor Hank Azaria.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He
Yes,
was the
he does have a part. He does have a part in this movie. He plays the uh, I don't know. It's not mistress, but basically Val Kilmer's character and Ashley Judd's characters, they're married and have a kid, but Ashley Judd is getting some on the side with Hank Azaria.
That's right.
Hank Azaria's character. So that's your Simpsons connection for this segment.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
He was actually pretty good in the movie too. I liked his. I mean, I didn't like his character, but like he played that character well.
Right. He played kind of like a scummy New Jersey low life, kind of like loose connections to the mob.
Yeah.
Kind of based out of Las Vegas, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So now let's get into our rating. Robert, I'm gonna let you start us off.
So you can have me start off. I think I'd rate this as definitely a 4. I just the characters are fantastic. It's if you like lots of great dialogue, good action, suspense. This is the movie. This is a really good one. And just like I said, the scenes, especially between Macaulay and Hannah, are just fantastic. It's some of the best movie dialogue between characters.
All right, cool. Yeah, for me, I'm gonna give this a 4.5.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, 4.5. I mean, as much as I love this movie, yeah, to give it a perfect, give it a full 5 is a bit much. Even though I really love this movie and I think it's great, but uh, the half is basically for more technical things as opposed to artistic or creative.
Right.
Yeah, so
I like I said, this is a must watch. Go see it.
oh,
It's great.
absolutely,
I will
absolutely.
definitely. I'm probably gonna watch this movie several more times.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely want to find that early '90s version of this movie, but
Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe on the if he on maybe the Blu-ray, maybe they'll have that version on there.
maybe. Oh yeah, the TV movie was called L.A. Takedown, and it was in 1989.
All right. So if anyone knows where we can find that, go ahead and put that in the comments.
Right. Yeah, and the only reason, the only reason why I know about this earlier TV movie is because that episode we did with Eric, and he was talking about Heat, and he was the one that shared with us that information.